So a couple of weeks ago, I was thinking about how I could relax and maybe go on vacation, and then realized very quickly that, well, because of work and other things, I couldn't. So I decided to live vicariously through Terraria once again and build the most relaxing possible place I could think of, and I think we achieved that. Hey Terraria fans, welcome back to another speed build video. Guys, in this one I am building what I believe to be the most relaxing possible place I could think of in Terraria, because when I think of relaxing, I think of beach, I think of sun, and I think of, I don't know, no worries, I guess. So to that end, I decided to build this quaint and adorable little surfer's hut, and I absolutely love the way this turned out. So while this build oozes relaxation, at least in my opinion, there were a few stressful moments when the build process was being undertaken. So if you guys actually want to catch me while suffering through that stress, guys, you can actually do so live on Twitch and on YouTube, because we are multi-streaming now on either a Tuesday or a Thursday, depending when you're available, at around 5:30 p.m. Eastern time. And guys, additionally, if you're, of course, enjoying that kind of content, or if you're enjoying this content, or you want to see more content, please feel free to hit the like, the subscribe, or just leave a comment or something down below. That engagement is really helpful for the algorithm, and we're trying to get, I guess, the word out about this channel and get more people involved in the Terraria building community. Oh, and finally, guys, don't forget to stay until the end of this video, because I will be covering all of the materials that I used in case you want to get a closer look at them, or maybe, use them for a replica or some other version of this build that you're thinking of making yourself. So again, stay till the end, check out all the materials. It's pretty useful, and we'll give you some more insights into what I was doing. Right, so with that said, guys, let's get to the build, shall we? All right, guys, so here we are in our build, and I'm starting with the foundation of the surfer's hut. Now, initially, I wasn't really sure how I wanted to put this together. Of course, I knew I was going to be somewhere in the sand, so I actually made my own area here. And the goal was to make something that was off the ground, but still felt kind of a bit run down and rustic and, just appropriate for the beach. So I went with some bamboo here across the top just to give the platform and surface. I then went with some buttressing in the in-between to hold all of this up using some palm wood. And then we also use some palm wood walls on the side sitting on some tubs, and it overall looks pretty sturdy. The roof is nothing too crazy. It's just 2 layers of different woods, one being Dynasty painted white, and one being palm wood that isn't painted as of yet. And again, the goal here was just to make a kind of different feel. I wanted to add a roof that was a bit more natural, so I actually did end up going with the leaf, and it looks pretty good overall. We also have some window shutters there on the sides, which I think look pretty good. I don't know if I executed those quite as well as I would have liked in the end, but pretty good overall in my opinion. On the roof here, and it's a big thick area that I wanted to emphasize, so I made sure it was really overgrown and leafy. Then on the interior here, I wanted a few more supports and structure, and then I went in with some hay around the windows, as well as some boreal wood for the base and around the edges. So nothing too crazy in terms of materials, guys. I also just want to make sure that I have a good variety so it looks a little bit more interesting, and we kind of continued this pattern of different things throughout. I will say for the roof, we did add this internal window that I actually think looks really good. We just kind of actuated a few of our normal wood blocks and then painted them, I believe, brown, and then just kind of pushed them to the background, and they look pretty good and fit in, especially once we add some glass and a little bit of, I guess, a design with our hammer. Now, naturally, the next thing to do is add in a bit more color and some variance. So I went in with some cyan or sky blue paint, I believe, throughout the windows, and then actually made my own sort of shutter system by just hammering into the bottom position some more blocks. This was Dynasty blocks. And then we kind of kept going with the same theme, just throwing some colors around, some reds, some yellows, and just seeing what we actually liked. Now, when it comes to the surfboards, guys, I did go with some silly balloon. I think this is probably the best choice. I just alternated between them and sort of, I guess, decided on a final product. There's not really a perfect way to do these. I don't think I could have come up with a better solution. I tried to add some shape and some dimension, but I don't know. I think they come across pretty well as surfboards. I then used different paints and kind of like let them sit there, and I think overall they kind of have the right illusion. To the right of the design, we actually start making the kind of, I guess, platforms or the pathway down to the beach. I knew I wanted something that led to a few little chairs or sunning chairs or whatever those are called, just a place to relax. Again, this is the most relaxing build in Terraria that I could think of, so we had to add those in at some point. So those lounger chairs are an excellent little detail to put in near the end. But again, I'm not going to ultimately bore you with every single little detail. You'll see all these come together. There's nothing too crazy here, guys, and I will cover any specific materials at the end of this video, so please stay tuned until then. In the meantime, please enjoy the rest of the build, some of the music, and we'll see you on the back end.
Perfect.
All right, folks, so with our surfer hut build now done, I'm gonna go ahead and quickly cover all of the materials. Now, as always, guys, depending on the size and complexity of the build, we're gonna have more or less materials. And with this one, we've obviously got more. We've got 2 chests. This one here will just cover the paint. So if you wanna take a quick snapshot of all the paints I used, I encourage you to pause the video here. And similarly, if you wanna see all the materials we use, I go ahead and I would encourage you to, again, pause the video here to take a closer look. Now, that said, there are a lot of textures in this design, but that doesn't necessarily mean we have all that many materials. A lot of the textures actually coming from walls, and in particular, I used a lot of fencing. So I did use your shadewood fence, rich mahogany fence, boreal wood fence, and some pearl wood fence, as well as some bamboo fence. So 5 different fences in this build, and that actually helps with a lot of the texturing. Like I said, we use a couple of different colors on them, of course, but overall, you can kind of notice where they come in. I think they add a nice sort of feel and sort of beach vibe to this design, so something that is certainly worth playing around with. Now, as far as unique walls go, I did use some adamantite beam wall. Now, you can't really see it, but it's there to give a really glossy or smooth sort of finish to the walls. I think it looks pretty good, although again, used so sparingly and so hard to see that I wouldn't worry about it too much. You could probably replace this with almost anything because it's hidden behind some walls, or sorry, behind some blocks. But we also did use some squiggle wallpaper, and then we did use some spooky wood wall, as well as some pink tiled wall. And again, just some basic woods like ebonwood, palmwood, and some planked wall, as well as your wood wall and bamboo. So a good combination of wood textures, which makes sense for this build. Now, moving on to the blocks, guys, again, very similar idea here where we use a lot of wood. So we're using dynasty, normal wood, ashwood, ebonwood, and some palmwood just to give this a nice feel. But probably the more unique part would be our balloon here. So we use these for the surfboards, the silly purple balloon, the silly green balloon, and the silly pink balloon. This gives you some different colors, textures, and sort of separation between the blocks. So this is what I went with. I don't know if there's another alternative. If you do think there is one, do let me know. I couldn't think of one that would give us that rounded look other than these 3. So it worked out pretty well. Actually, I'm pretty happy with it. I wish I could have made some cooler patterns, but overall, this is a really nice little touch. Now, the only other block that really maybe stands out is going to be our pumpkin, which I simply used for the umbrella, although you probably could have used this in a couple other areas throughout the build, especially any vertical areas, because it actually looks pretty good and slightly similar to ebonwood. So something to consider if you're looking to swap it out, but I would say bamboo, large bamboo in particular, is probably the way to go. But with all that said, guys, that is all of the materials and paints that I use for this design. Of course, like I said, feel free to swap anything that you want, but if you want to make a, well, replica or a carbon copy of my design, that's all of the materials that you will need. So with that covered, let's go ahead and move on with the rest of the video. All right, folks, so there you go. There is our Surfer's Hut build done, and I absolutely love the way this looks, and I also think this is by far the most relaxing build I have ever seen in Terraria, at least so far. There's a ton of really great little details in this one, particularly the surfboards and of course those umbrellas, but especially those lounge chairs. I know they're really simple, but they just kind of finish off that final piece of the puzzle. I even added, I believe, some little platforms on the end to make it look like towels. I don't know if you guys quite caught that. We also added a couple of fans within the design of the build, those little black parts hanging down. So overall, I'm just really happy with all those little details, the way they panned out for this, and the way the whole thing actually feels. I mean, guys, I added coconuts on the palm trees. What else do you want? Either way, guys, this build was a ton of fun to make, and I do hope that this encourages you to try something similar. A lot of these builds are just meant for you guys to have something to look at, to maybe get inspired to try something of your own. And if you want to actually make an exact copy or a very close replica, guys, by all means, please do that. I've covered all the materials. I've shown you the final product. So, you know, give it a shot. But yeah, that's pretty much all I got to say, guys. So thank you so much for watching until the end of this video. And as always, thumbs if you liked it, subs if you loved it. We will see you in the next one.